Here's what car experts don't want you to know about 1970s trucks. While everyone's chasing muscle cars from this era, there are 10 incredible trucks sitting right under their noses that are still dirt cheap, and nobody can explain why. The 1970s gave us some of the most revolutionary trucks ever built. But here's the crazy part. While classic car prices have gone through the roof, these trucks are still flying under the radar. I'm talking about vehicles that should be worth six figures, but you can still pick up for the price of a decent used Honda. And the strangest thing? Even the experts can't figure out why the market hasn't caught on yet. Before we dive into these hidden gems, I've got to mention something wild. Only 1.5% of people watching this channel are actually subscribed. That's crazy low, and hitting that subscribe button really helps me get monetized so I can keep bringing you content like this. It literally takes 1 second and costs you nothing. Now, let's talk about why these trucks are so undervalued. The 1970s was a weird time for the auto industry. Gas crisis, emissions regulations, and changing consumer tastes all mixed together to create this perfect storm. Most people think the decade killed performance vehicles, but they're dead wrong. Truck manufacturers were actually innovating like crazy during this period, creating vehicles that were tougher, more capable, and in many cases, more advanced than anything that came before. But here's where it gets interesting. While muscle car collectors were busy fighting over every surviving Chevelle and Challenger, these trucks just sat there, working hard, being useful, and getting ignored. Fast forward to 2025, and we've got this massive blind spot in the collector market that smart buyers are just starting to notice. Number 10. The 1978 Dodge D-Series Power Wagon. Let's start with a truck that should be worth way more than it is. The 1978 Dodge Power Wagon was basically a monster disguised as a work truck. We're talking about a vehicle that came from the factory with a 440 cubic inch V8 that made over 250 horsepower when most trucks were struggling to hit 200. Here's what makes this truck special. Dodge didn't just slap a big engine in a regular truck and call it a day. They beefed up everything. The frame was reinforced, the suspension was upgraded, and the whole drivetrain was built to handle serious abuse. This wasn't some weekend warrior truck. This was designed for people who needed to haul massive loads across terrible terrain. The crazy part? You can still find decent examples for under $15,000. Compare that to a 1978 Dodge Challenger, which will cost you at least $50,000 for something in similar condition. It makes no sense. The Power Wagon has the same legendary 440 engine, the same build quality, and arguably more capability, but the market just hasn't figured it out yet. Experts think it's because work trucks weren't seen as collectible until recently. But that's changing fast, and when it does, these prices are going to explode. Number 9. The 1975 International Scout II. Now this is where things get really interesting. The 1975 International Scout II was basically the grandfather of every modern SUV you see on the road today, but nobody talks about it. This truck was doing things in 1975 that other manufacturers wouldn't figure out for another decade. International Harvester built this thing like a tank. We're talking about a vehicle that was equally at home hauling a boat to the lake or climbing a mountain trail that would make a modern Jeep think twice. The base model came with a 304 V8, but you could option it up to a 401 that made serious power. What makes the Scout II really special is how advanced it was for 1975. They offered features like power steering, power brakes, and even air conditioning at a time when most trucks came with roll-up windows and a prayer. The four-wheel drive system was bulletproof, and the removable top meant you could have an open-air experience decades before the Jeep Wrangler made it cool. But here's the kicker. You can buy a restored Scout II for less than what people pay for a decent used pickup truck. We're talking about a piece of automotive history that's still affordable, and nobody can explain why. The Scout has a cult following, but it hasn't broken into mainstream collector consciousness yet. Number 8. The 1970 Ford GMC Sierra Grande. This is probably the most overlooked truck on our list, and that's saying something. The 1974 GMC Sierra Grande was GMC's answer to Ford's luxury truck offerings, and they absolutely nailed it. But while everyone was paying attention to Chevy, GMC was building what might have been the best truck of the decade. The Sierra Grande wasn't just about luxury features, though it had plenty of those. We're talking about a truck that came with options like bucket seats, console shifter, rally wheels, and enough chrome to blind a satellite. But underneath all that fancy stuff was serious capability. GMC offered the Sierra Grande with everything from a 250 cubic inch inline-six all the way up to a 454 big block. The 454 version could tow massive loads while still being comfortable enough for daily driving. The build quality was exceptional, and the styling was aggressive without being over the top. So why is this truck still cheap? Experts think it's because GMC lived in Chevrolet's shadow during this period. People bought the Chevy equivalent instead, which means there are fewer Sierra Grandes around, but also less demand. It's classic supply and demand gone wrong. Limited supply should mean higher prices, but when demand is low, prices stay flat. Number 7. The 1976 Ford F-250 Highboy. Now we're getting into trucks that serious collectors are starting to notice, but the general market still hasn't caught up. The 1976 Ford F-250 Highboy is one of those vehicles that looks ordinary until you understand what you're looking at. Then, everything changes. The Highboy nickname comes from the truck's stance. Ford raised the whole vehicle to accommodate the four-wheel drive components without cutting into ground clearance. The result was a truck that looked tough and could back it up with performance. Ford offered the F-250 with some serious engine options, including a 390 V8 and even a 460 big block that made over 240 horsepower. But power wasn't the only story here. The F-250 had one of the most robust four-wheel drive systems of the era, with a manual locking front differential that could handle anything you threw at it. What makes the 1976 special is that it was the last year before Ford redesigned the F-Series. That means you're getting the final evolution of a design that had been perfected over several years. All the bugs were worked out, reliability was at its peak, and the styling was classic Ford tough. But here's where it gets weird. While later F-Series trucks have become collectible, the Highboy is still relatively affordable. You can find good examples for $20,000 to $30,000, which is nothing compared to what muscle cars from the same era are bringing. Number 6. The 1973 Chevrolet K10 Blazer. The 1973 Chevy K10 Blazer is probably the most undervalued truck on this entire list, and that's not even close. This vehicle basically invented the modern SUV category, but it's still selling for less than what people pay for boring sedans. Chevy took their successful pickup truck platform and chopped the back half off, creating something that had never really existed before, a truck with the capability of a full-size pickup, but the maneuverability of a smaller vehicle. The removable hardtop meant you could go topless when the weather was nice, and the short wheelbase made it incredibly capable off-road. Under the hood, the K10 Blazer could be equipped with everything from a mild 307 V8 up to a serious 350 that made real power. The four-wheel drive system was the same bulletproof setup used in Chevy's pickup trucks, which means it could handle whatever you threw at it. But here's what makes the 1973 special. It was the first year of the second generation, which means Chevy had fixed all the problems from the earlier design while keeping everything that made it great. The styling was perfect, the proportions were right, and the capability was unmatched. So, why isn't this truck worth a fortune? Experts are stumped. The K10 Blazer has everything collectors should want: iconic styling, serious capability, historical significance, and relatively low production numbers. But prices have stayed reasonable, which means smart buyers still have a chance to get in before the market figures it out. Number 5. The 1977 Dodge Ramcharger. Talk about a truck that should be worth way more than it is. The 1977 Dodge Ramcharger was Dodge's answer to the Chevy Blazer and Ford Bronco, but in typical Mopar fashion, they did it with more style and more power than anyone else. The Ramcharger came from the factory with some serious engine options, including a 360 V8 and the legendary 440 big block. That 440 option is what makes this truck special. We're talking about the same engine that powered muscle cars like the Roadrunner and Super Bee, but now it was available in a full-size SUV that could haul your boat and your family. Dodge built the Ramcharger Tough. The frame was based on their pickup truck platform, which means it could handle serious abuse. The four-wheel drive system was robust, and the interior was actually pretty nice for a truck from this era. You got real seats, decent gauges, and options like air conditioning and power steering. The styling was pure 1970s aggression. Angular lines, a bold grille, and proportions that looked like they meant business. This wasn't some cute suburban SUV. This was a truck that looked like it could eat lesser vehicles for breakfast. But here's the crazy part. Good Ramchargers are still selling for less than $30,000. Compare that to what people pay for muscle cars with the same engines, and it makes no sense. The Ramcharger has all the performance, plus way more utility, but the market just hasn't caught on yet. Number 4. The 1975 Ford Bronco. The 1975 Ford Bronco is probably the most famous truck on our list, but it's still undervalued compared to what it should be worth. This was the year Ford got serious about making the Bronco a real competitor to vehicles like the Chevy Blazer, and the result was one of the best trucks of the decade. Ford redesigned the Bronco for 1975, making it bigger, more comfortable, and more capable. The new version was based on the F-150 pickup truck platform, which meant it could handle serious loads while still being manageable for daily driving. The styling was clean and purposeful, no unnecessary frills, just functional design that looked great. Under the hood, Ford offered the Bronco with a range of engines, but the one everyone wanted was the 351 Windsor V8. This engine made solid power and was bulletproof reliable. The four-wheel drive system was simple and effective, with manual locking hubs that gave you complete control over when you needed extra traction. What made the 1975 Bronco special was how well-rounded it was. This wasn't just an off-road machine or just a highway cruiser. It could do both well. You could use it to tow a trailer during the week and hit the trails on the weekend without missing a beat. The problem with Bronco pricing is that everyone focuses on the early small Broncos from the 1960s, which have gotten expensive. But the full-size Broncos like this 1975 are still relatively affordable, even though they're arguably better trucks in almost every way. Number 3. The 1978 Jeep J10. Now we're getting into trucks that are so undervalued it's almost criminal. The 1978 Jeep J10 pickup truck is one of the most capable vehicles ever built, but nobody talks about it. While everyone was focused on Jeep's CJ models, the company was building pickup trucks that could do things other trucks could only dream of. The J10 was built on Jeep's legendary platform that dated back to military vehicles from World War II. But by 1978, they had refined everything to near perfection. The frame was incredibly robust, the four-wheel drive system was the best in the business, and the styling was pure functional beauty. Jeep offered the J10 with a range of engines, but the sweet spot was the 360 V8. This engine made good power and was known for being practically indestructible. The four-wheel drive system featured Jeep's famous Dana axles front and rear, which could handle abuse that would break other trucks. What made the J10 special was its off-road capability. This truck could go places that would stop other vehicles cold. The combination of short wheelbase, robust drivetrain, and excellent ground clearance meant you could take it anywhere. But it was also comfortable and capable enough for daily use. The crazy thing about J10 pricing is that these trucks are still selling for reasonable money. You can find good examples for $15,000 to $25,000, which is nothing compared to what other classic trucks are bringing. Experts think it's because Jeep pickups never had the same marketing push as the CJ models, so they flew under the collector radar. Number 2. The 1974 Chevrolet Suburban. This might be the most important truck on our entire list, and it's definitely one of the most undervalued. The 1974 Chevrolet Suburban was basically the vehicle that created the modern SUV market, but you can still buy one for less than a decent used car. Chevy had been building Suburbans since the 1930s, but the 1974 model represented the culmination of decades of development. This was a vehicle that could carry 8 people and their luggage, tow a massive trailer, and still be comfortable enough for long highway trips. Nothing else on the market could do all of those things well. Under the hood, the Suburban could be equipped with everything from a mild 307 V8 up to a serious 454 big block. The 454 version was particularly impressive. It could tow enormous loads while still delivering reasonable fuel economy for such a large vehicle. The build quality was excellent, and the reliability was legendary. What made the 1974 Suburban special was how ahead of its time it was. This vehicle predicted the SUV boom that wouldn't really take off until the 1990s. Chevy figured out that people wanted truck capability with car-like comfort, and they delivered it in a package that nothing else could match. But here's what's crazy. While modern Suburbans sell for $60,000 or more, you can buy a restored 1974 for half that price. We're talking about a vehicle that's historically significant, incredibly capable, and built to last forever, but the collector market just hasn't figured it out yet. Number 1. The 1979 GMC Caballero. And here we are at number 1. The truck that's so undervalued it's almost insulting. The 1979 GMC Caballero is probably the most overlooked vehicle in American automotive history, and that's not hyperbole. This truck should be worth serious money, but you can still buy nice ones for less than $15,000. The Caballero was GMC's version of the Chevrolet El Camino, but it was more than just a badge-engineered clone. GMC gave the Caballero its own styling, its own interior options, and its own personality. The result was a vehicle that looked more upscale and sophisticated than its Chevy cousin. Under the hood, the Caballero could be equipped with some serious engines, including a 305 V8 and even a 350 in certain configurations. But power wasn't the whole story. This was a vehicle that combined the comfort of a luxury car with the utility of a pickup truck. You could haul a refrigerator during the day and take your date to dinner at night. The 1979 model year was particularly special because it was the last of the full-size Caballeros. After 1979, everything got smaller due to fuel economy regulations. That means the 1979 represents the end of an era, the last time you could buy a car-based pickup truck with serious power and full-size proportions. But here's what makes the Caballero's low values so puzzling. This truck has everything collectors should want. It's rare, it's stylish, it's capable, and it's the end of a production run. El Caminos have gotten more expensive in recent years, but the Caballero is still flying under the radar. Experts think it's because GMC was always seen as the commercial truck brand, while Chevrolet got the performance image. But that's exactly why smart collectors should be paying attention to the Caballero. It's basically the same truck as an El Camino, but with lower prices and less competition from other buyers. The real mystery isn't just why these individual trucks are undervalued. It's why the entire category of 1970s trucks has been ignored by collectors for so long. These vehicles represent some of the most innovative and capable trucks ever built, during a decade that saw massive changes in the automotive industry. Part of the problem might be perception. When people think of the 1970s, they think of the gas crisis, emissions regulations, and declining performance. But truck manufacturers actually thrived during this period because they weren't subject to the same regulations as cars. That meant they could keep building powerful engines and capable vehicles even when car performance was suffering. Another factor might be that these trucks were seen as work vehicles rather than collector items. Unlike muscle cars, which were always about style and performance, trucks were viewed as purely functional. But that's exactly what makes them special. They had to perform in the real world, which means they were built tough and designed to last. The market is starting to catch on, though. Smart collectors are beginning to realize that these trucks offer everything they want: performance, capability, style, and historical significance, at prices that seem almost too good to be true. And the best part is that unlike muscle cars, most of these trucks are still usable for their intended purpose. You can buy any of these trucks, drive them daily, use them for work, take them camping, and still have a valuable collector vehicle. Try doing that with a 1970 Plymouth Cuda and see how that works out. The writing is on the wall, though. Prices for clean examples of all these trucks have been slowly climbing over the past few years. The collectors who get in now, while prices are still reasonable, are going to look like geniuses in 10 years when these trucks are worth what they should have been worth all along. So there you have it, 10 trucks from the 1970s that experts still can't explain. Each one represents incredible value in today's market, and each one has the potential to be worth significantly more as collectors finally start paying attention to this overlooked segment of automotive history. The smart money is already starting to move, and the window for getting these trucks at reasonable prices is closing fast. The question isn't whether these trucks will eventually be expensive, it's whether you'll be one of the people who got in before everyone else figured it out. Don't let these hidden gems stay hidden forever. The next video breaks down the exact models and years to look for when shopping for your first classic truck.